Welcome to MPA Feedback Stream 40. I am the guild leader, and today with us we have Blayhub and Radium.
Hello.
This is the live stream we do every Friday where we take submissions, tracks from the members of the MPA community. We'll listen to them live here on stream, and we take turns giving feedback, and we just talk about track and try to give advice and stuff like that. If you want to get your track on the stream, look for the featured post in the MPA community. It's called MPA Feedback Stream, and there's a submission form there. You just submit your track and come back on Friday, every Friday. Um, Again, we encourage people in the chat to also give your feedback. We're trying to get just a bunch of people talking and giving feedback and giving their perspective on the track. So if you've come to get feedback, please also give feedback. All right. If you haven't already, like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't. All right. And other important news, I really wanted to use this beginning of this stream to just talk about the producer battle, clarify it. And I mean, I'll start off like if anyone's familiar with the events that we do that I've put on, it's always an experiment in my eyes, and I like to just evolve it and work out the kinks as we go. This is the 10th producer battle that we've done, so we've kind of come up with a system, but we put a twist on this one. Um, so this is producer battle 10. Choose your suit, and I'll just do the card suit, so diamonds, clubs, hearts, and spades or whatever. And I'm just using those as four groups to give different genres or styles of music or making music a chance to compete within their field. Now, obviously, I've already noticed, and I guess I should have predicted this, but everybody's picking spades, and it's because in spades it's the electronic house, dubstep, drum and bass, EDM, etc., all that electronic stuff that doesn't basically fit into other categories like pop electronic stuff.
Who would have
um
guessed? Am I right?
who would have guessed, especially in our community? I guess I could have predicted that. So again, I'm always tweaking this. I think in the future I'm already predicting that I'll break it down a little differently, so I'll still give orchestral and classical music their own category, but I'm gonna have to break EDM down into subgenres and give people that, just so we get less people in each group. But anyways, that's for next time. Let's think about this time. We've got enough people in each group to at least have a head-on-head, one-on-one battle in each one. But we got a week to submit your track still and gather people. So I'm promoting it to our top active members. We'll try to get as many people. I got a lot of people signed up. We've only got a few people submitted their tracks so far. You have until Friday the 11th, so next Friday, to submit your track. And you submit that through the MPA Discord. You'll just make sure when you get onto the MPA Discord, if you've never been there before, just get your roles. Like if you're familiar with Discord, you'll know pretty much every server you sign up for, you need to somehow follow their little rules and get your role to get activated. So just do the activation. We got a little bot there. Contact me if you have any problems. But get your role, your MPA member role, your member role, and then you'll see the event submission thing. Submit your track there. Um, and then I'll add those to this little spreadsheet I'm working on. I'll add all those tracks to the spreadsheet, and then by the next Friday, we'll take all those in. I'll pick the official judges. The official judges have not been picked yet, so we'll pick the official judges, and we'll start that stuff. So I don't want to talk forever, so I want to quickly jump to the things I wanted to explain to people, because this is always where people are confused. Okay. Well, first of all, I will go a little bit more in depth on the categories. So people have been asking me, okay, the categories. They're not genre. They're not all genre. They're kind of genre, but there's a big difference. The diamonds category is performance, instrument, guitar, player, singer, rapper, bands, etc. That's for the also talented musicians that can actually perform an instrument. We're not talking about producers, here. I'm talking about performing musicians. So you can play piano, you can play guitar, you can play saxophone, you can sing, you can rap. All this stuff has to be done in real time. This is hard stuff, and I want to give those kind of musicians a chance to compete. Because production is its own thing. So that's diamonds. Then you got clubs. That's pop, hip hop, rock, country. This is all your normal music, is why I put in this category. Your pop songs, your hip hop songs, which is basically pop now, R&B, rock, country. This is your normal stuff that's not EDM stuff. So you pick clubs for that. And then the last one is classical, orchestral, film score, composer style stuff, theatrical, like a score. No beat almost kind of stuff. It can still have beats, but this is classical music, film score style music. That's basically the gist. If I feel someone entered the wrong category, I might suggest them to switch and stuff. So I'll be listening to the tracks, of course. All right, now I'm gonna jump down here quickly to the rounds so everyone knows why there's a fourth round and what I mean with the fourth track. Okay, so there's round one. People are submitting their tracks right now, and that's also the first track that gets rated and stuff like that. So the best tracks will survive. The people with the weakest tracks will be eliminated from the competition. We'll go into round two. Um, Correction. Round one, pretty much everyone gets through. It is qualifiers. The only people that don't get through is I feel like it's a meme or something, just totally abusing the competition, or they're just not following the rules, like a remix or something like that. That's what I mean by qualifying. They're qualifying with a track that's not against the rules. Round two is the first knockout round. That's when they can submit a second track. We're rating that track, um, and we're knocking out some of the people. In round three, we do the same thing, rating the tracks, knocking out some people. 3 tracks is all it takes to win this competition. You can win the competition with 3 amazing tracks. So let's just say you got 3 5-star tracks. Okay, here comes round 4. The remaining producers have the option to submit a fourth track. Since it's based on an average, you could, logically, you're going to be either bring down your score or raise your score based on your fourth track. So if you don't have a fourth track that's strong enough, better than your first 3 tracks, don't submit a fourth track. It's where a lot of people make a mistake in these competitions. They're always trying to submit a track every round. Try to submit your 3 best tracks. The fourth track option is good for the people that barely squeaked by and they feel like they got a track that will raise their score, like a 5-star track that was going to raise their score. So that gives people the chance to come back with a secret weapon. It's like a comeback track kind of thing. So the fourth round is for people that want to submit a fourth track. We'll take the average of all the tracks together. That's how we determine the winner. So that's how that works. If anyone has any more questions about that and how that works, just you can message me in any of the community. You can message in the event chat rooms and stuff like that. I want people to ask questions so we can figure this out. All right. And then as far as the rewards go, just like to remind everybody, this is mainly for promo and getting your songs in front of an audience. Feedback. It's for fun. We do this for fun. There's not a big cash reward or anything. There's no cash reward. It's amino coins, but who uses those? If you do, let me know why. You'll also get a custom title on Amino, cool stuff like that if you're an Amino member. Featured posts on Amino again, so if you can post some stuff, they will feature it there. But I want bigger, better prizes. So the best thing I've always given away is the winners will have a chance to host an official MPA Remix Challenge. And this is if they have something that qualifies and works out, and they agree to all our terms. The winner can host a competition. This is, again, really good for promo. If you're trying to get your name out, you got to start somewhere, and it's good to get involved with the community, get everyone in that community to know your name first, prove that you're the best in the community by winning competitions, and then you move up from there. So use these competitions as a way to get involved with the community and stuff like that. All right. I think we talked enough about that. I just really want to clarify and encourage everyone to sign up if you haven't already. Go ahead and sign up and send me your track, or submit your track, and let's have a good, fun, big battle. Producer Battle 10. Pretty cool. All right. I'm going to pass this over to Blayhub to get the feedback stream started.
All
What do we
right.
got today, Blay?
All right. That was a lot of information, but I think it's good to say it here again because it's been a while since we did one of these challenges, competitions.
I might cut that out and make a little promo video with it.
Yeah. All right. So today we got 7 submissions. Well, actually, we got 6 submissions, but we'll get to the reason why one submission did not. It's not possible to play. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Anyway, I think we should start with our first submission for today, which is going to be Blue Bossa by Jazzerado. Have fun. All right, so that was Blue Bossa by Jazzerado. And Jazzerado did leave us a message. Actually, everyone did. And Jazzerado's message goes as follows. Hey everyone, I started working on a bossa tune called Blue Bossa. I started noticing changes in how I approach chord changes, and there is a specific language that I start talking over specific chord types, which is great because it's noticeable improvement. What do you think about that improvisation? I think my time could be better, and my fingers move clunky sometimes. Sorry, I have to include the typos because I do it for some people. I have to do it for all. Any ideas? Any thoughts? Jazzerado. Okay. All right. So, what did you think, Guild?
All right, I definitely really enjoyed this. I think you just get a little tighter and more accurate. All the technical terms for the playing, but each submission you're just getting better. So all that practice is showing, and you know, it's just it's sometimes the best feedback you can get is that you are improving. I know we've talked about it before on stream regarding you about like you not noticing the improvement, so you actually go back and listen to like your older stuff, but um kind of being just giving the feedback every week and stuff like that. I definitely noticed the improvement, and it's just like in the practice shows. As far as this piece goes, I really love this piece. I know that these are all interpretations that you're doing of famous pieces, and if I was more familiar with the piece, I'd really be able to be like, "Oh, what did you do a little different?" and all that stuff like that. But just really enjoyable. I've said this last time, and I'm really, take your time when the time is right. But I'm excited to hear something completely original by you. That'd be really fun. And if it doesn't have to be a backing track or anything. If you want to make it completely original, you can just do, something simpler, or maybe a collab with someone, so it is still original, but it's still like something y'all wrote together, and one person does the backing track and you do the lead. Something original that you can actually release and call your own. That'd be cool. But no, just good job. You're getting really tight. And I'm gonna pass. We're trying to do a little thing today. I almost forgot. We're gonna take a turn, just giving our quick reaction, and then we're gonna talk deeper about it. So I'm gonna pass it over to Blake. What do you think, Blake?
Right. Yeah, I think I definitely agree with everything you said. I think the improvement is getting better every time with every stream. Um, Sometimes there's a little bit less improvement. Sometimes there's a big jump. Um, I think one of the best improvements that I'm noticing across the streams is your tone improving, which I think is great. I mean overall control, but I think with the tone, it's actually the most noticeable. Also, intonation is something you struggled with a lot, which is something you said yourself. But I think you're really getting the hang of it now with that, and it's definitely improving. I think it's great that you don't overdo your improvisations. I think there's a point that many people get to um, who try to do everything, and it's sort of you sort of start to miss out on the core idea of the actual tune. So I think having sort of straightforward improvisations in a way, I think that's sometimes missing in the world of jazz and everything. It's sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's a little bit too much, I think. Um, yeah. All right. What did you think, Radium?
I'm mildly, excuse me. Sorry, my FL Studio was on and I was hearing myself twice. It was disturbing. So, I mildly liked it. Uh, I thought it was kind of a bit bland when we're talking about improvisation versus maybe 2 weeks ago. Was it? I don't remember if I was there last week, but like maybe like 2 weeks ago compared to that.
2 weeks.
It felt a yeah, 2 weeks. So it felt kind of bland on that side, but then again, it depends on what you are focusing on for this for this improvisation. If you are more focused on tone and playing, then I guess it's fine. But if again you were more on this I'm gonna say in quotes classic improvisation, I felt like it was lacking personally, but again it depends on what was your goal and aim. So it's kind of for me right now it's a 50-50.
Yeah. But this kind of music with the backing track and like this is a perfect example of what I mean by the diamonds category. We're talking about a musician here, so there's just so much. When you listen to this, us knowing who Jazzerado is and knowing what, because we're familiar, we're kind of like, okay, wow, this is talent here. So now to just to take the song in a vacuum and just play it to someone random that doesn't know who you are and doesn't know if it was programmed or not or whatever, not really paying attention to that. I think there's things that personally that you can be doing to yourself to make you more flashy and stand out as an artist, and that's what I'm excited to see. But right now, you seem like you'd be a really good session player, really good, just like in a group or if you get paid to like record some stuff. And you're getting really tight. And I know you're kind of working in that way to practice to know every scale and every scale and every position without having to transpose and anything like that. You're learning all that stuff. So I mean, it's just gonna pay off. So I mean, it's true talent. I love actual musicianship, like playing. There's a lot to be said about a composer and like the greats that just write it all down on paper and just someone else plays it. And there's a lot to be said about someone that programs with a piano roll and stuff like that and gets everything sounded right because that's still a songwriter. It's coming from your mind. But you know, for years before all that stuff, it's all just about being able to play your songs live and someone recording you. You go to the studio and you get recorded. And that's where the talent is. So I recommend every producer out there that makes any kind of music to learn an instrument, even if it's just your keyboard and your piano. Learn your scales. Run your keyboard really fast with your hands. Learn how to play your MIDI controller. Get good with the knobs and the filters and play your licks. Learn the scales. Playing an instrument is fun. First of all, it feels really good to jam. And second of all, you're going to write much better music if you know how to play an instrument. So, anyways, good job, Miro.
I really agree with that actually because I think a lot of electronic producers they really lack this. They sometimes lack a feel for musicality, not lacking musicality as a whole, but I think there's sometimes a lot of expressiveness and want for expressiveness that's missing because a lot of them did not experience or rarely get to experience this sort of, you know, really feeling an instrument. It's really interesting. It's really interesting because there's even with a controller, and you like you said, controlling like a synthesizer or actually a control pad to control a plugin can already get people, you know, this feeling, this feeling, and this one for expressiveness. I think one of the big issues I'm having with a lot of electronic music actually stems from that may actually be the whole reason why I'm feeling so conflicted about a lot of electronic music and a lot of pop music is because there's often a large level of expressiveness that's just not being touched at all. It's all very straightforward, not sine waves, but let's just for the sake of it say it's just a bunch of you know cold and dry sine waves, and there's not really it's not really getting a lot of feel across. It's and I think there's a lack of desire for that just because people have not experienced
Right.
what you
They haven't
actually want
experienced.
to feel. And I think that's actually, I think a lot of people struggle with that. And sometimes people say, oh, why doesn't my thing sound full? Or why can't I get this sort of sound that I'm hearing here, And I think a lot of the time it's actually, the reason is actually, we're totally getting off track here, but I think a big reason for why many people's mixes and many people's tracks sound stale and empty is for that entire reason. It's they don't really work. Excuse me. They don't really work this expression into the plugins, into the electronic instruments, which you can totally do and which other people do. It's just with this desire missing, you don't really know where it's how to express that with these tools because you can translate that. But I want to kind of go back to Jazzerado because I think it's interesting that Radium, you said that for you, I mean, I said in my short um, in my quick feedback, or I don't know what we want to call it, in my quick
I don't know, but we got
feedback,
to pay attention to the clock.
yeah, I said, uh, sorry, in my quick feedback, I said that I think it's nice that Jazzerado is keeping things simple to begin with. And then you, Radium, I think you're right. I think there's things missing, and it's a bit. How did you say it, Radium? The improvisation. You felt it was lacking something, right? Radium. I think you're muted. I don't know if that's on purpose. Um, uh, uh,
He,
but I think it's interesting that
he's mixing.
yeah, you're definitely noticing that there's something lacking, and I think you're right about that. I think there is something lacking, but I think it stems from the fact that there's a lot of exploration going on. There's a lot of you have to get all these things done before you can really start to do like all the crazy stuff, and I think there's a certain level of perfection you have to reach. I mean, not perfection, but there's a certain level of there's a certain understanding and certain level of skill you have to reach before you can really go all out on these things without going too much. And I think it's a really fine line that the real really pro guys are dancing around on it. It's super crazy because do just a little bit too little and it becomes stale, just stale enough that people don't like it, and do too much. And okay, some people may like it, and there's you can brag with it, and like you said, really put a show on and stuff. And it really only gets you on this technical side of things. It's like, oh wow, that's technically insane. Like the technique this person has is just insane.
Really fast or things
yeah,
like that,
super fast and precise, and there's all these advanced techniques and crazy sounds and stuff. But then you sort of, you lose with that. You lose a lot from the listener's perspective. So you may actually end up losing musicality. You may actually end up losing this musical context. So it's a really fine line to be on, and I don't want to tell Jazzerado to, oh well, do more before
'cause you really gotta
these
feel it.
things aren't completely down. Because there's
It's like
there's
those-
always things you gotta work on. Yeah.
I know, it's like those guitar players that can play really fast, but they're not playing like pretty. They're just doing like arpeggios up and down the scales. It's not always about fast, or precision. It's neat when people can do that, but sometimes it's just too much. Like if some of those guitar players
It's too
that are
much
known,
sometimes, yeah.
yeah, they're just like all over, like, but they're not playing anything soulful. They're not playing anything with feeling. They're just going how fast they can go and how
Yeah, up,
good
down,
they are.
up, down,
And
up, down.
yeah.
And there's no
I think it's good.
yeah.
And I think that timing is good. I think we should kind of move it on. But we're trying this new thing out, everybody. Today, every week we try to tweak it, and today we're trying to rotate and not sound so like open discussion, but still take turns. That feels right, and I just want to kind of move it along. At a good time. So I think it's good. And thanks for submitting, Jazzerado.
Yeah. All right.
Always enjoyable.
Our next submission is going to be Gone ID by EN or N. Have fun. All right, so that was Gone ID by Ian. All right, and Ian did leave a message. It's incredible. It's incredibly short, but anyway, I'll read it anyway. IDK, what to add here other than it's not mastered yet, and a laughing crying emoji. Right.
Cool.
Okay. So,
And
what did you guys think? What did you think,
I'm
Bill?
glad I'm glad we got to hear this because you don't and submit a lot of stuff to us. I have heard stuff before. Checking out your channels, SoundCloud and YouTube, A Raid. I hope that's how you say your name, A Raid. I it's a cool name. I like it. Um, so this is definitely really simple. I think Spranks, and that's another person. I don't know if I've ever said your name correctly. Spranks in the chat. Spranks. Um, but you're pretty accurate with the stuff you were saying in your chat. About the mix and everything. There's a lot that can be done here. This is a great starting point, though. It's not like something you would just trash. This is something that just seems like it needs some show off. Like you need to show off in this track somewhere with a lead, a vocal, some kind of unique thing that's never been done before with the arrangement. It needs something different because right now it's very much, and I think Blaze can talk about this, but it's very much background music or something like that. It's my first initial impression, but I like the melody. I like the happiness, the tune. I like it for being uh, that, and in a good way. I like it for being like a background music for how as it is right now, like something that would go along this categories of lo-fi or chill or study beats or something. But in the election, a lot of those channels are popular. Streams are popular on YouTube, like the whole lo-fi hip hop study beat stuff. But now I'm noticing there's a lot more creeping up that are like very just minimal music of other kinds and just really easy listening study beats in quotations or whatever study music. But you might not be wanting to make that. Now, I'm pretty sure you're self-aware of your track and what it sounds like. It's just really simple. It's really just a nice little tune. But it's lacking. I couldn't picture like a band playing this on stage or a lead, someone playing the lead or anything. As it is, it needs something like that. But um, and be careful with the mastering. You don't want to do too much in the mastering. Just make sure you're just mixing right. You say that it's missing mastering. Really, it's not really ever missing mastering until the very, and it's just missing proper mixing. And if you want to say mastering, yeah, as far as volume goes or whatever, but don't wait for the master to fix things that you could fix now for sure. So, cool. I'll pass it over to what you think initially.
Oh, right. Yeah. Um, so I think, yeah, yeah, I totally agree with a lot of what you said. I think there's been some really great recommendations, really good feedback and tips in by the community in the chat actually. Um, uh, what I want to say, dear. Um, yeah, it's like Gil said, very simplistic. But I think yes, I want to ask Ian or Ian a question, and that has to do with the title and the cover art, because I'm a bit confused, because those don't seem to really go along with the actual music. So I want to ask, because you are watching this, I believe. It would be great if you could, while we're talking, could maybe write a short message and explain what the idea behind this is, what the motivation is, what the sort of because the picture and the title sound very in a way very moody, very there's a certain vibe to it that I'm not picturing together with the actual music. Anyway, and yeah, I think with this, when it gets to the open discussion, I think I want to push the conversation in the direction of purpose and meaning. Yeah. All right. So, what did you think, Radium?
Okay, so this is one of the situations where I should have written down my feedback because I have a lot of notes, but I don't know how to introduce them one by one.
We can come back to you after you write some more. I mean, what were your like
I didn't write
first impressions?
anything. I'm too busy multitasking, as I always do. Well, I have a couple of notes. I'll just pick them one by one. Note number one is something that I learned to do and that I recommend that you do, especially for the type of music that you make, is when you have a lead or an instrument that low-key sounds like a string kind of instrument and it's alone, it's disturbing to listen. I'm gonna introduce that. It's kind of disturbing when there's only like one instrument playing, how there's nothing in the background around that instrument, even if it's supposed to be a lead. The lack of it feels like the space isn't being filled, and it's mildly like disturbing when you listen to because it shows the dryness of a sound. Okay, I'm very colorful in the way I describe things. So your song starts with a lead, but that lead is all alone. And I'm not saying the lead is bad or whatever, but it doesn't fill the space. And it's one of those situations where you could have put either some layering, some reverb, maybe increase the reverb on that particular intro so it fills the space, or even it's a trick that I learned. Split, no, copy twice. FL gang here. Copy twice in your not the piano roll, but the other thing in your playlist. That particular sound, bend one to the left and the other to the right, and it's gonna fill the space a little bit more because otherwise it's like in the intro it's alone and it doesn't feel nice. It feels like the space isn't being filled. So maybe that's a trick that you could use for some of your sounds, especially when it's something that is there's no chords, it's just like one single melody, it's a string kind of thing. That way you're gonna fill the space and it's gonna be much more interesting to listen to. A little bit of reverb, delay, some layering, panning is gonna be interesting to more interesting to listen to.
Mhm. I
Now
agree.
the song itself, it feels I didn't know you could do that in FL. Yeah, I finally taught someone something. It feels great. Your song sounds dry. It's such a weird way for me to explain that, but I don't know how else to explain it. Your song mildly sounds dry. I feel like there's a lack of more sounds or effects to fill up the whole space. Maybe it's just me. I have never used Sound Goodizer. I'm not even sure what it is. Uh, I lost myself. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, right. Your song sounds mildly dry, so I would really think you should layer some of your sounds a little bit. Find a bit when I say layer, it's just add an instrument that sounds similar. It's gonna add a little something, a little oomph, just to fill out your space more. Uh Other than that, yeah, it really sounded kinda it's all on the forefront. Yes, I'm very colorful and illustrative in my feedback. Your song, I don't know if it's my headphones that are not working, but it all sounds like it's on the forefront. So I would recommend that you really play with the three-dimensional aspect of sound. So, something more in the forefront, something more in the background, just so I'm repeating myself, just so you can fill the space. It's gonna make the
Mhm.
the listening experience much more interesting no matter what equipment or speakers someone uses. Uh,
Yeah,
so
totally.
it's a video that I watch on YouTube that explained that concept. And sometimes we think the issue is the mixing and the mastering, but sometimes it's actually what we're doing in our piano roll, in our playlist. That is the issue that needs to be resolved.
Mhm.
Oof. So I would really recommend you work on the three-dimensional aspect of sounds, something in the forefront, something in the back front, etc., etc. It's gonna help your song sound good. Other than that, it's not my kind of music. I didn't know that's the kind of music you make, but it was interesting. And shout out to you for using Lemon's cover image. It's real nice.
Oh, okay, that's where it came from. And I think we're
Yeah.
gonna talk about the artwork
Uh,
here in a second.
yeah.
I just want to
Can I
quickly
just?
second. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry.
Let's. Oh,
Yeah, I just
you
wanted
know what?
to.
Go
Oh,
ahead, Blake.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh dear.
No big deal. I was gonna pass it over to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, I no, I'm sitting here on the edge of my seat because I wanted to say something ever since Radium came up with this great tip for widening the stereo image. You don't Radium. You're talking about widening the stereo field, right? So it sounds wider, right?
You're bringing technical terms. I don't know what it
Yeah.
means.
No, it's
Yes,
just so
essentially.
it sounds
But
fuller, right? With this
Yeah.
panning to left and panning to right. There's actually a knob dedicated to this exact thing, so you don't need to duplicate anything. So in the mixer, at the bottom, below the faders, below the polarity and channel swap buttons, there's two buttons there. There's
My
a
God.
tiny knob, and that is for stereo separation. So if you turn
Is it
that
a knob that looks like a speaker but that's facing one another?
below that,
no,
there's
that's
a
gonna flip to
dot.
the left and right. But
There's a
hey,
circle. If you look at the bottom channel, there's like two
FL Studio
knobs.
tips.
Yeah, there's two buttons.
I would honestly say though, your
Yeah?
technique, Radium, is not a bad technique. Sometimes it's
It's
good
not a
just
bad technique, but it
to
exists
split the
as
files
a
up.
button. It exists as
Yeah, for
a
sure.
button. Anyway, if you have FL open, I guess. So below the
Yes,
two
I do. That's why I'm
below
asking.
the two buttons, there's a gray
Let's
it's a gray knob. If you click on it and hold it and drag it left to right, you'll see like a bright blue and a purple thing appear, and that's for the separation. So if you turn it to the right, you merge the channels, so it sounds more mono. And if you turn it to the
I
left,
see it.
yeah, it
Oh
widens
my
it.
God.
Yeah,
Oh
it's a
my
really
God.
it's a good knob.
It does
Oh
a good
my
job.
God.
I mainly use that to do mono references and stuff, but I would honestly say your regular way that you were doing it, Radium, is actually you get a little bit more control. Hey, let's pass this.
It
Let's
does
keep
the
this going
same
on
thing.
feedback. Let's not get off topic here. Let's try to make this
I
a
don't
really good
think
time.
that's
It's
off
already
topic. I think
been
that's a great tip
it's
to
almost
offer to our community. Anyway,
10 minutes here. I would say one last thing about, because you said you wanted to push the direct conversation in this direction about the artwork and everything. The artwork does match the title. I don't know if the music matched the thing, but a lot of times that whole connection there is one of those things that is up to interpretation. Sometimes the music will match the music to the person that wrote it. I mean, match the picture. And sometimes the artwork just doesn't connect with the music. Like it might be a sad title and a sad picture, but the music might sound happy and cheerful. That's like not always going to connect or whatever. But artwork is always up to the interpretation. And so I would agree with what Blay was saying. Like make sure the artwork and the title and the music is like one thing, because there are a lot of people that still listen to music and they want to see an image that goes along with it. They want to take the title into consideration, and I think that's a great tip. I don't know how much this was a miss because it seems to work for me, but Blay was mentioning that they got a disconnect there. So just something people think about. The art is part of the music. Not always, but to some people, they really, the art, the presentation is part of enjoying a song and like people getting attached to a song, So,
right. I mean,
so
my main reason for asking you about it, which I don't think we got an answer by Ian, and Enrique, and yes, butchering names. No,
I was gonna say
the
in
main
short for an Enrique.
yeah. The main reason I was referring to it though is because the music itself really did not, to me at least, I did not at all feel what I was seeing in the cover art, and what the title suggested. Um, so to me it very much it very much sounds like the sort of stock music that you typically hear used in random YouTube videos, like tips and tricks, stuff like that, like random how-to videos, stuff like that. That's where I can see this sort of music work. But the title to me, and the cover art, they suggest to me a more, I guess, personal and emotional basis. But the music, the story the music is telling does not really align with that. I don't know. I don't think
I
that's
could
just
agree.
me.
I can see that. No, because it looks like he's sad and someone's gone in the picture.
Yeah,
They're
it
missing
seems
someone.
like a very specific and emotional moment, and the music really does not reflect that. So I'm wondering, what the ideas behind this are. That's why I asked, and to tell us what the idea behind this was, what the motivation behind making this music was, what sort of ideas they were trying to get across. I don't know, maybe, and because you're watching this still, I believe, maybe if you could, explain that like in a quick sentence, tell us how this fits together, what this all means, because I'm really confused. It's throwing me off to the point where I can't really. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. I think it's been about 12 minutes. Should we pass it along? Unless Radio or anyone has anything else to say. Oh wait, Enrique just posted something.
Yeah.
So basically, I'm working on an album project, just expressing my feelings, and just as Blay said, it's a personal story, and it's conflicting with the music, with said conflicting feelings, if that makes sense. I can see if you're really trying to still work it out in a sense, the feelings in your head with the music and all that stuff. But yeah, totally. Thanks for explaining that.
So is it about denial? I don't know. I think we should probably not get further into that.
Yeah, let's go on. But I do recommend, and maybe I think Annie already does this stuff, but when you post a song in Amino, it's a perfect chance to write the story behind it and write as much information along with your post in the song when you post the song. And I think people like to read that stuff. So yeah, tell the story with the song, and we'll definitely feature those kind of posts. All right. Who do we got next, Blake?
Okay. Up next, we got SuperZrussell, ID Fruit Ninja by SuperZrussell. Who would have guessed? Anyway, okay, have fun. All right, so that was SuperZrussell, ID Fruit Ninja by SuperZrussell. Where comes the title? Tip number 1. Thank me later.
Oh no, I think it's the title and the name, but I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, okay. So
very literal with titles.
Yes, I am. I get offended by stuff. Anyway,
our regular viewers know this by now.
Yes, you'll get used to it.
All right.
And if not, you can leave. Anyway, SuperZrussell did leave us a message, which is super short, so I'm just gonna quickly read it. Submitting this one to Rushdown. Wish me luck. I don't know what Rushdown is. I guess we'll find out.
Good luck
In a moment. Yeah, good luck. I thought maybe Guild knew, but apparently not. So I'm lost.
No, I don't.
None of us do. But good luck. Good luck. We hope you get a spot in the label or the competition or the satanic ritual sect. I don't know. Okay, so what did you guys think? What did you think about Guild?
Cool. I mean, this was definitely a neat. It is like I gonna second what Blaze already said to me in the private chat. There's literally, I mean, the dynamic range. It's like I know in this music there's not always a lot of dynamic range, but there's a lot of ways that producers added in there. You know, there's things you can do to kind of add some more dynamics. Doesn't necessarily come off the same way a live instrument would with dynamics because you got so much there when it's a live instrument. But in electronic music, it's usually never like that. A lot of the chords and everything's being compressed. It's up to the limit. It's loud, but so you have to do other things to create that dynamic range. This is just like a short blip of the song, so maybe in the full version song, definitely I recommend giving that. That's why those intros are always kind of there to kind of be a little bit quiet at first and kind of build up to give you that dynamic range. And one other thing, dynamic range is not always about volume. Sometimes it's also about and this is just something that people don't really think about dynamic range, but dynamic range in width also, stereo panning. And a great tip I'll just echo, one that I just was reminded of recently is as you right before you get to the drop, pan everything or put everything in center. Use that same knob they were talking about a second ago. Put everything in the center. Um, and then right when the drop happens, open it all back up. And you can do that with the volume too. Keep everything turned down a little. This is where people are wrong. They think everything needs to be compressed at all times up to the limit. You play soft, play lightly, play quiet. You can have one sound going that's still loud so everyone knows, like a reference point. Like, okay, this is the loud point. You don't want to surprise people like, oh, it's all quiet, and boom, it's super loud. But you do want that dynamic range. So I would add dynamic range. Cool idea. I would say keep working on like overall mixing and stuff. It doesn't always need to have that sausage feel. People are getting these samples that are already smashed and they're just mixing them together and then smashing it a little bit more, and it's just almost too much. But anyways, what do you think, just as you first listen to this play?
Yeah. Um, I mean, first off, it's an interesting idea. I think. It's it's definitely something. It definitely fits within the style that this is inspired from. Um, I think. Yeah, I always agree with, I love dynamic range. I think it is something that is also missing from electronic music a lot in a lot of cases. So I think Guild is right. I would like to see that, though I can see how, in a club setting, you would actually want to have sort of constant levels, I guess.
You said it
But
right there.
I
That's why they
totally,
do it.
I totally, yeah. But I can totally, if you want to do things differently, which I don't think this is trying to do, then I would like to see more dynamic range. But since this is so much in line with the other things that it's coming from, I think it's fair to, yeah, just go with it. Little bit of loudness war in 2021. No, but yeah, I think there's been super awesome tips by Miro in the chat. So yeah, there's nothing to add to that. So take a look in the chat and look at what Miro
The
said. That's
bass
a
and
great,
stuff, yeah.
yeah, that's a great tip. There's So if you haven't done this yet, which I'm guessing you haven't, I have not checked it, but just judging from how far I had to push this down to be able to not have it distorting on stream today, this was not properly mastered. Now, you don't, you're submitting this to a label. Depending on what this label is and how your connections to them are, they may not care because maybe they'll do something with you, for you. Forget about that. This is not happening. Get that thought out of your head. It's not happening. If you deliver completely, completely messed up levels and stuff to labels, they don't care about you. They won't care about you because they know you don't really know what you're doing. And as an electronic producer, you sort of need to know these technicalities because your job is a very technical job. So I would really strongly advise you to very quickly before submitting, or I don't know, to really read up on these things. You don't need to be a mastering engineer. That's something other people do. But if you understand these basics, and if you understand what you need to do to deliver a file that people then can actually master, people, if you deliver files to a recording engineer, to someone to make your master, and it's completely unusable for the master, then you have a big problem, and people will turn it down. So I think it's important to read up on these things now. I'm not even going to mention anything now, because it's just gonna, it's just gonna completely, it's just gonna take too much time. It'll completely break a bunch of what is possible on the stream. So please read about requirements for getting things mastered, mastering sessions and stuff like that, what you need to do to prepare things to be delivered to that. And most importantly, read up about these tolerances with true peak ceiling, true peak levels and stuff like that, and how much headroom you need to leave for people to actually master your track. Super important stuff. Please read up on it. It's, if you know these basics, it's you don't lose anything. It's just beneficial to know these things. Okay. Sorry,
Totally.
bit of ramble there. Radium. I just felt it was important. Radium. What did you think?
Oh my lord. I don't want to say what I have to say. I don't want to be the person who breaks dreams in the chat today. In the stream today. I'm sorry.
I think you just did with the suggested, like, what do you mean? No, what do you mean, Radium?
The thing is, I don't know if what I'm gonna say is valid, or if I just have to stay in my lane and shut up a little bit. That's
I'm curious, 'cause I think it's going to
Yeah.
be accurate, but I would say SuperZrussell submitted better stuff than this. That's why I'm a little confused. This is a little too smashed, a little too up there. This is a cool idea, but it's just too,
Yeah.
like, it's not, like, maybe that's because it's not a done track. That's probably why, but I've heard better stuff. But what did you, I'm curious what you're going to say, Ray.
Okay, so I did some research while y'all were talking, and Rushdown, from my research, is a label. Makes sense if it says submitting to Rushdown. I don't know if you're in the chat today, but confirm if I am wrong. But it's a label. I don't know
Okay,
what kind
that
of
makes sense.
label it is. I don't know if it's a label that is open to most people. I don't know if it's a label that is critical in who it wants. But if it's a label that is critical in who it wants, that track, in my opinion, will probably not be what makes you stand out. If I were like an A&R rec, rec. I guess it's, if I were like an A&R specialist in a label, the track sounds just incredibly common. Even I think I've heard this bass so many times in my life, just by doing those streams, and I don't like EDM, but I've heard this bass so many times. It sounds very common. Everything about this sounds common. And it's like, is this what I want to submit to a label? Because labels want la creme de la creme. Labels want the cherry on top of the whipped cream, you know? But if you sound like everybody else, what are your chances of being chosen? I listened to some of the other artists there are, and it already sounds a little bit different. So maybe it's just like a sample of a bigger song. So maybe I should like sit back and listen for everything. But if the entire song is gonna have this whole vibe, I would redo it or change a lot in it. So it has to sound like SuperZrussell, not average DJ that's here to fill the club on a Tuesday. Like it has to sound like you. So I don't know if it's a label that exists everybody and it's more like a guide kind of label, go for it. But if it's something that's more critical and a little bit harder to get into, it's not the track I would submit. And it's not a bad track. It's a common track. It's the equivalent of radio pop. You know what I mean? It's fun commercially, but I don't know. It's not. That's just my opinion. Okay, like don't give up on your dreams or whatever. But it's just my opinion. But I don't feel like it's the best track to show your abilities, your musicality, and what makes you stand out from other people also making electronic music in the comfort of their bedroom. So that's just like my main
Yeah, that
feedback.
is very true.
That's a
I
good
I
point. Because
absolutely
yeah.
agree with what you said,
Hmm.
Radium. Um, it sounds, yeah, I think I think common is a really good way to describe it. It sounds super common. Um, I think so. You did look up this label. It seems like it was probably at like a medium sized thing. Um not sure. Yeah, it seems like a sort of like, you know, medium sized kind of label. It seems like the kind of thing that would actually want to, you know, when labels take on new people, that is, it's a business. It's a business thing. A label would only take someone um, in onto their thing that would give them something they don't yet have, um, or give them a bit of variety in a given category that they need to fill some spaces in. Just people who they can sort of guess and know that would bring them further. You know, um, the thing you got to keep in mind is, for the a perspective from the perspective of a producer, from our perspective, from the artist's perspective, a label is there for us to get us further. But it sort of is an exchange of getting the other further. Yeah, they do things for, given, what kind of label it is and if they're professional in what they sort of offer. But a label will push you further. They will advertise. They have a bigger, they have large amounts of people and connections, contacts, and have ability to. They have funding, but in turn you have to give them something, and that is usually growth. That is usually the potential for growth, the potential for increasing revenue for the company, and it it is a little bit hard to see. You know, the things you're offering them have to communicate. First of all, of course, that you're not some beginner. You sort of know things, because they wouldn't want to work with someone who might actually just quit because they give up or they don't want to know where to go. Um, the second thing they usually want is a bit of security. Like, is it super experimental and it may just not work with anyone? There's labels for that, but that's a different set of people. But what I mean by that is they want a bit of predictability with how things may turn out, which is something they analyze and do. But then also, if it's super common and super stuff that's sort of been in a way, that's not really interesting either, because yeah, it exists already, and I think that's what Radium means with this sounds common. It does sound common. To me, it's the sort of thing that, yeah, I've heard. I too heard a million times, and I do not go looking for these kind of tracks, not at all. And if I recognize, a specific sound, like to its core, where it's like, did you rip this from somewhere? Almost, you could see it as a compliment for like, oh, I've reached a quality that makes it seem like it's something else. But, in this business, this is not really this sort of achievement you wanna have. You want to achieve quality, but you don't want to achieve it by being the other thing, or standing in the shadow of the other thing. I guess
Mm.
that's what I'm trying to say.
So
I would.
yeah,
I mean, if you have
look for something
submitted, good
unique.
luck. It may still work. That's the thing. No one ever knows. You may deliver the greatest thing ever created in human history, and it still may not make it to the thing. it's just sometimes there's just this random factor, this randomness, this luck part. You know, being
Right place
lucky.
at the right time. No,
Yeah,
totally.
totally.
I would say that you've done better, and that's why I would say if this is what you're going to show them, that's why I do like what Radium and Blade are talking about as far as like you said you're going to submit this to someone. Really make sure you're submitting your best stuff because that's your best chance. Just like
Yeah.
our competition that we're doing right now. Everyone submit your best stuff. I know there's not a finished track, and maybe that's why it's not up to your other levels in there. Shall we pass it on? How many tracks we got left?
We got a bunch left.
Cool. Let's go ahead
Yeah,
and
I
on
think we
to the
should move
next one.
on
All right.
with our next submission, which is going to be Fight or Flight by Kitsune Power. Have fun.
Cool.
Fight! Fight!
All right, so that was Fight or Flight by Kitsune Power. Kitsune did leave us a message, which reads as follows. Not a 128 BPM song, but I thought I'd try a stripped down drop compared to my usual ones. All right. So, what did you guys think? What did you think, Guild?
Uh, and I think you're already getting some pretty good feedback in the chat because you did some stuff right here, and I'll mention what I still think you did wrong, but I'm gonna agree that this is an overall good tune. It's a really good track, but it still needs some work. The things I liked most about it, and this is a personal preference, is the drop with the bass sounds you used. I like that kind of distorted bass. I like a bit crushed bass, and I like since I still think you could have mixed it if you're going to use those sounds, there's ways to really, mix it properly, and maybe that could use some work still. But I like what you had there. I like this, as we're always trying to say, oh, you need to find your sound and move in a different direction, or something like that, kind of suggesting you to find something unique. This is, yes, this has kind of been done before. I mentioned Rez in the chat and stuff like that, but this is still its own thing. I don't think the guitar matches the rest of it. That guitar thing is good on its own, kind of neat. Like the melody is too repetitive, but or it's not even a melody. I guess it's the riff or whatever. It's too repetitive. But I would say that the guitar is pretty and it's kind of neat. And you used the filters right. It opened up to the high frequencies and it sounded pretty. But the drop, I think maybe this is what you were going for. The contrast between that guitar and then the bass sounds and the drop, the contrast is what you're going for, which a lot of people do that. To me, I don't think those two things match together. But what I did like the drop a lot. I really did enjoy it. I want to hear you do more stuff like that. And this was slower. This is I forget what they call it, but yeah, very much like Rez would release or something like that. Good job on that. And you got those sounds mixed. I don't know, really good sounds. They're not too much high frequencies in them. They're really rounded, but they still sounded clean. All right. So good job. I'll talk a little bit more here after everyone gets a turn. What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. There. Right. Um, I think. Yeah, there's so much great feedback in the chat today. There's so little left to actually say. Um, so definitely keep an eye on the chat today. There is great feedback there by the community. Anyway, yeah, I think I think it's an interesting mix. I think you pointed out, Gail, that there's sort of a bit of a clash between the guitar parts and the other parts. I think it's actually a pretty interesting uh, mix, an interesting blend of sounds. Though I do feel that things are a bit uh, weak, in a way, a bit weak. Especially those bass parts. I believe those were the ones you uh, liked the most, Guild, about the track,
Yeah, and
about
I
the
agree.
bass parts.
They could be pushed harder. I think so in a
Yeah,
way that's not breaking the limits.
yeah. To me, they felt. I mean, across the entire track, it felt a bit weak, maybe too weak, actually. Um, yeah, and it's just very, very repetitive, um, which is, is a common thing, across multiple submissions today. But yeah, there was one last thing I wanted to touch on, but I think it just slipped my mind. So I may probably just pass it over to Radium before we go into the open discussion. Yeah, I think I lost it.
Maybe to come back to you.
Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, so what did you think, Radium?
So I'm gonna begin my feedback by giving you a couple of applause for actually surprising me not once but twice during the duration of your track. So clap, clap, clap. I don't know if I should follow the others' lead and just I actually liked this track. There's a couple of notes that I really want to highlight. So you just open your ears wide and just listen to my couple of notes. Um, First, I was very surprised by the guitar sound and its overall melody coming from you. It felt like an improvement as kind of an intro. And when the track started, I wasn't sure where to pinpoint myself. I wasn't sure where it was gonna go. So already you captured the listener's attention. So that's already super good. Second, scroll up in the chat and notice how everyone commented on the drop.
Mhm.
Screenshot that, print it, and kind of just like pin it somewhere on your wall whenever you produce, because this is the reaction that you want your crowd to have. I'm doing something in the background, and even I was so surprised by the drop that I actually put my second headphone on my hair to listen more closely, because I was like, this is new from Kitsune.
Mhm.
Oh, and this is what you want from your listener. You want them to be like, oh, this is interesting. It's nice that you tried new things. It's nice that you went a different direction. It doesn't stop the fact that your song from in some places is very repetitive, maybe doesn't change a lot, but those little two factors already shows me that you're trying new things, and that's already super great. So like for this feedback, I like to focus on those two things. The intro that sounded very different and the drop that also sounded different. I don't remember hearing a drop like that, at least for this kind of electronic music. I'm not an expert, but for this kind of electronic music, it was a very, very new kind of drop thing. So yeah, don't be scared to try new things. Come out, get out of your comfort zone. I say it all the time. Like really take a chance, because I don't know if you took a chance or whatever, but clearly it rewarded, because most people in the chat were like, yeah, that's good. So I'll congratulate you on that. Other than that, I'll kind of summarize myself. Yes, repetitive. A lot of the sounds were you knew what kind of sounds were going to be used, but again, keep exploring music and your musicality and your identity, and I feel like you're on your way. Eventually, your tracks are going to sound like Kitsune's track and not just like electronic music tracks. So clap, clap, clap.
Yeah, for that. But I guess to maybe to steer the open discussion into just general, and we say this all the time, but just why is it repetitive? Because you still seems like you're doing everything that seems like it's good enough, but the most obvious part to switch it up is always right there in the halfway point. So if you're doing like a little 16 bar rise, it's always right there at the 8 bar point where you start. I mean, after the eighth bar, where it goes in the ninth bar, it literally just starts doing the same thing, and you already know that it's just going to repeat what you just heard. And the problem is, when electronic music first came out, we didn't hear it all the time, so we're like, okay, cool, it repeated the same thing. That's cool. But we've heard electronic music so much now, so when all of a sudden you like already can predict what the song's doing, that's you don't want to do that. So the thing I recommend is, yeah, you're doing the filtering, and yeah, you're sweeping the filters, and you're opening up the noise, and all the risers are happening. The melody, you just totally write two melodies and try to fit them together. Like write the first part, you keep that rhythm, but move the notes around to a new spot, and just move them to a whole new spot until you have two ideas, and then turn it into a longer melody. So I can't remember what yours sounded like, but if it's and then the second part be like just try something a little different so
Da
it's
da da
not
da da dum.
predictable. Yeah. uh,
Okay.
just change the notes around, because you have the power. We are the producers. We are the one controlling it. So there's no reason why, if it's a 16 bar, that the second eight bars need to be the same as the first. Or if it's an 8 bar progression, the first four need to be the same as the second 4 bars. It needs just make those big changes, and everything else is still going to glue it together. The drums and the bass and all that stuff will glue it together as a normal EDM track, but the melody can be more elaborated. I mean, uh, there's a lot of people that do that stuff. Look into the
Right.
trance world of things, Armin van Buuren and stuff like that. It's just elaborated melodies. Um,
Geld, I think so we always complain about repetitiveness. Here's the thing. Here's a tip for everyone about that. I think a big issue, a big reason why it's so easy to I think it's actually a matter of your workflow, how you work with, how you work inside your DAW, is probably a big contributor, even just mentally, to what you do with your music. So I think we can all agree that just needless repetition is really annoying, and we all want more variety. I think something that's really discouraging people from making this variety is the fact that our tools suggest to us to do it the lazy way. I'm talking specifically about looping and patterns. So I think to combat this issue, and I think if you mute, if you solo one of your tracks and you listen to that, and you don't listen to the full track, but you listen to the soloed part, which I'm guessing a lot of producers how they start working is, you get your pattern. I'm talking a bit in FL Studio terms, but it works relatively pretty much the same in most things. You have your pattern or your your first channel or track, whatever, and you make a pattern, you make a melody or whatever, and then you have this element that you in your playlist copy a couple of times. You put it there another time, and then you think, oh, I want to have a beat, and you start making a drum loop, and then, oh, maybe let's add a progression. I think that's how a lot of people sort of build the tracks, and sort of build them up like the pyramids in Egypt. you get your bricks, and okay, you couldn't really call them bricks, but let's just go with that for now. You get your bricks, and you have a small brick, and you set one on top of the other, and sort of start building up this thing.
I thought the aliens did it.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. And I think that is a major contributor to how these repetitive tracks come to be.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to make a 5-minute track that way, because you can just click and drag, and you have 5 minutes filled with the same loop that you made. And it's so easy to get lost in that, because then you start adding more things, and you add this down, and you add that thing, because you get bored, of course. You listen to it, and it's like, oh, I want another thing here, and I want another thing here. And you do that, but you don't change the patterns you already created. You don't go back and say, let's delete this pattern and make a different chord, because that would break the other patterns. So here's my tip.
It is a lot to do with laziness.
Yeah,
go ahead,
but here's my tip. here's my tip. May as well be a challenge for everyone who's watching this. Because the way I work is discouraging you from doing that, is encouraging the other path. So what I want to recommend is, you start making your thing, and instead of copying and duplicating that pattern immediately, or just instead of duplicating anything, dedicate one pattern and work inside of it for the entire length of the track. So if you want to have a repeating pattern, repeat it manually. Go inside the piano roll, go inside the MIDI editor, and you may copy it a couple of times, but listen to it and maybe even paint it in manually, like enter the MIDI notation manually, and you'll get bored. Change it up. Vary it. Bring in variation. Work in, because that's what I do when I work in FL Studio. It's probably the improper way to do it, but for me, it's the way that works the nicest. So what my big orchestral film scores, they happen inside a single pattern.
It's crazy, but it's a great way to work. You can still cut that pattern up too. That's what's cool about FL
I could
Studio.
totally, but with the current workflow, that works the best for me. But it all happens inside a single pattern. So if there would be a repeating pattern, I would have to actually write it out, and that it doesn't force me to, but it gets me to. I did this 2 times. I want to change it. Let's go somewhere else. Okay, I've been here for half a second. Let's move somewhere else. And I think because I'm not really I just don't get to copy and paste things. Yeah, I think that's what's making it. It may seem a bit more. It may seem like more work at first if you always did it the looping way. But I think once you do it, it's really not difficult. It's really not much more work than plopping down the patterns. And I think it makes for I think it makes your brain think differently and listen to the music differently and come up with more variation more naturally. Because if you listen to the one thing, it's boring. It's just repeating. Our brains don't like that.
No, I reckon that's a good challenge. I recommend trying that. It makes me want to try that. There's so many different ways to do that in FL. And I guess we'll stop talking about FL because it's not an FL stream. But in any DAW, if you could find a way to, build the song in one pattern or one long clip, and what it would look like on a piece of score, like a printed out notation, like piece of paper.
Sure,
you just could turn the pages through the whole thing. It's like one long piano roll. And yeah, you can still copy and paste the notes in the piano roll and all that stuff, but the idea is to get away from that and to actually draw on each note at a time. And it's going to make you really think about it. And just my advice on that, since you might get a little lost doing that, just pay attention to the grid and the number, the bar that you're on and all that stuff like that.
Right.
You can just remember what bar each part and stuff in.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do it in a single pattern, but if you have longer patterns, so instead of 4 bars, 8 bars, 16 bars, and then repeat it, really dedicate multiple, one pattern, multiple patterns to be the entire length of the song, and you have to, plop out the melodies in there and the chords.
Very cool. All right.
All right.
Challenge KP. I guess the challenge is to, I don't know. I mean, score a
Don't loop.
Yeah, just score it all in one long pattern.
Don't restrict yourself to, looping patterns.
The looping
patterns.
effect can still happen, but with the slightest variations in the notes,
you can
it's going to give that more human feel. So
yeah,
I
mean the point
like,
is really that you naturally want to add variation to a given pattern,
naturally,
which is more difficult. It's actually more difficult to do if you have a looping pattern to then make a new pattern just to bring variation. It's discouraging to do that. So if you don't have this restriction, if you just have I'm writing anyway, I can do da 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 da. It's just more.
You're one click away.
Yeah,
and the volume too. With the volume is also the volume needs to be different each time too. Even if you have two loops that are exactly the same, make the volume different on one of them, just ever so slightly, and you're going to add that extra. All right, let's pass on to the next. What do you say?
Okay, so here's the point of the stream where we have to, bit of disclaimer, because our next track is not going to be played today, because it is a remix. And I looked it up. So this is would have been Hover's submission. It's a remix of Go Ahead Now. I looked it up, and it's the kind of remix that I know is in a really gray area, and it's totally going to get flagged, and I did not want that. So we unfortunately have to skip this one because it would get copyright claimed. Most likely.
Yeah, unfortunately. You can send that to me privately, and I'll check it out. But,
it's very much in a gray area that is super difficult to deal with. In case anyone doesn't know this, covers are technically illegal. So it's not, it's a cover, it's legal. It's not. If anyone told you that, that's a misunderstanding. And, it's just a misunderstanding. It's a gray area. There are changes coming to copyright law. In certain places of the world, not everywhere. I think it's it's still very much a gray area. Pretty much globally. I mean, some countries care more, some countries care less, but this is bound to cause issues, and I'm not dealing with that because it's on our channel. So
just everybody remember, just submit your original work only. You got to have, if it comes from a sample pack, make sure it's a legal sample pack and all that stuff like that.
Yeah, that's the things that we ask for in the submission form. There's always, it needs to be your work. You need to have all the rights. Now, it's possible that Hover did actually receive the rights, in which case they could message me or Guild and send a copy of that contract. So not the contract, but send a copy of the license, of proof for being allowed to do this. Then we can play it. But just as it is now, with this information missing, I do not want to play it.
We've had problems in the past with our channel, so that's enough. That makes sense. So
all right, so
let's move on.
We're instead moving on to
Thanks, bud.
the next track, which is Genesis by Mintymist. Have fun. All right, so that was Genesis by Mintymist, and Minty did leave us a message, a very short one, but I'm still gonna read it. Just wanted to show you guys what I'm currently working on. Okay. So, what did you think, Guild?
Um, I really enjoyed this. I'm gonna try to just give two different styles of feedback. One feedback, if I was to never hear anything else from you, and just knew that you like, say I was in a playlist of music like this, and this song came up, and I would think it's very modern for the genre that you make. I think it's very much kind of like where these genres have got to the real cute, simple, chill beats. I never really quite pinpointed your genre. I don't want to put you in a box, but anyways, I'm just saying your genre has gotten to this point where it's almost like intelligent music, but to the point of just like, you know, simple but catchy melody, different things are happening. There is a story being told. It's just a nice tune, and the sounds you choose what keeps it like in that cute anime slash video game vibe. I would I want to say this is probably one of my favorite tracks from you, but I like your old stuff too. I liked, I mean, I've seen your progression all along, and I liked a lot of different stages you've been in, and I liked a lot of your original stuff. But again, I wouldn't want to box anyone into a certain genre. So for you to like branch out and go and end up with something like this, I like this a lot too. This is something different. So yeah, in a vacuum, I just really like this track compared to some of your other stuff. I would just definitely say, yeah. Uh, I mean, nothing negative, but mainly just kind of, yeah, it's not what always what I would expect from you, but that's kind of a good thing. Uh, the only negative I'd really say is the beginning is just so, and this is just due to our short attention spans we have now. This used to be fine 10, 20 years ago, but these long, quiet intros, and I know Blair probably disagree with this, is just fine. But I think these long, quiet intros, you're just like, what's happening? I don't hear anything. It's too quiet. It's too minimal. It's like, when is the action going to happen? Thing is just due to my short attention span, but I would like to hear things kind of like get your attention a little earlier in the track, like maybe even with just volume, like to at least let us know how loud is the track gonna be, maybe eventually. So I don't have to turn it all the way up and then turn it back down later. I'd like to set my volume from the beginning of the track and know what to expect. I think the
Gee,
beginning
if
was just too
only
slow.
people would pay attention to mastering standards, then we wouldn't have
Right,
this
yeah.
issue.
Exactly. So I just think I turned it up really loud at the beginning, and then I had to turn it back down. Is what happened, is what I'm saying. So I maybe a way to fix that. But good job. I think this is one of your most interesting tracks for sure. I love the sounds. The sound design. This was my favorite. That loud clock sound. Maybe it was a little too loud, but at the same time, maybe being that loud is what anchored the mix, and that's fine. But that clock sound was louder than everything else. But maybe that's fine. All right. What do you think, Blake?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also agree with this being extremely interesting. And I think I also agree with this being maybe the most interesting. Maybe, I don't know. Um, uh, um, um. Okay. And right back to the amps. So here's, I'm conflicted. I like Minty's things. I think Minty has really good ideas. I think this has some really nice ideas and some really interesting ideas, and it's pretty well executed. Um, I uh, I really only have one single super nitpicky issue with pretty much every submission, and you can go back to like the feedback streams that Minty submitted to and listen to, and you'll see it in pretty much every single submission. I have an issue with one element that Minty can't get rid of, and it's getting to the point where it's beyond a cliche. It's really annoying me, and it's that one downward moving in the harmony, da da da. You always do that, Minty. I'm
That's his.
I'm
That's his
I,
signature.
sure.
Uh,
I
uh,
think there's a lot of other more subtle and interesting signature aspects that Minty
yeah,
brings
for sure.
with these, but it's just that one thing. It's in everything. It's in everything, and I'm honestly, I, whenever I hear it, I'm like, ugh, there it is again.
How could you do that to blame it?
It's, it, yeah, it's haunting me. It's haunting me. It's the kind of thing that, I don't know, and it's just disappointing because you have nice other ideas, and I feel like sometimes there's this moment where you don't really know how to continue, and you do that and just move
If
back
they
to the
went down and
beginning,
went
and
back up though, it'd go down, 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 bomb, 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 back up, kind of. That's what it.
it's a way to it's a way to get back to the beginning, sort of, but it's the same thing every single time. It's just, yeah, it's lazy. Sorry, it's lazy. Uh, I don't know.
It happens
I
though.
think
It
I even
happens to people that just get
challenged.
in habits
I
of
think I
certain.
even
Yeah.
challenged Minty at some point and said, do it without the thing, and I don't think it happened. I don't think the challenge was fulfilled. I don't know if it was a proper challenge. Minty, here's the
I like
challenge:
this.
make a song, make a track without the thing.
The minty style thing.
It's really getting you worked up. It's I don't know.
That definitely.
It's
That's
a
definitely.
nitpicky thing, but honestly, if it's in every single track, and if you have it side by side, and if you have it in an album, and you have that in every single thing, sure, you could argue that it's like a motive, like a repeating
thought you were
motive,
talking about
which
the
is
other thing.
totally fine. But if you then have it across multiple albums, and it's just every time, no, stop it. God damn it.
What was
Okay,
happening? That was
anyway,
happening with
so,
my album. I was getting
Radium,
too many of the same things.
what did you think?
Okay, I'll be honest. I wasn't paying that much attention to your song.
Oh.
Not. I'm doing other things, so I got like distracted by that. But from what I remember, I really preferred the beginning. I'm not even gonna sing the beginning. I don't remember it, but like the beginning seemed a lot more interesting and like attention grabbing and keeping than the rest of the song. So maybe that's why I lost my attention, because it felt like it was like other lo-fi songs that you've made. It's not necessarily bad, but yeah, I feel like I would have preferred if the theme or the vibe of the beginning/intro continued throughout the song instead of stopping near the drop and going somewhere. Radium
You
gotta
gotta
listen to the
listen to the
whole
whole
thing.
thing. Yeah, you go back and listen to the whole thing. In all fairness, she got distracted.
I swear they're connected somehow. Wow, I felt so much better because they're somehow connected, but I have to listen to the whole thing. But they're somehow connected. Okay, I'm joking. It's still no. My point still stands. I feel like the intro should have the vibe of the intro should have been throughout the song, not just like at the beginning and then the classic lo-fi stuff comes up. Even if the even if the motif at the beginning stays, the vibe of the motif should have been throughout the song,
Do
not
you
just
mean
like
this detuned
merge.
effect thing?
I don't know. I'm not gonna sing it, but like at the beginning, the intro, it's okay. That's what I was vibing to. So I feel like it
It's
should have.
simple though. I agree with Minty that Minty said that they want to add some harmony to the beginning, and I'd add a little layer, another instrument or something. But
Well, anyway, my point still stands. My point. Okay, you know what?
Mhm.
One sentence. My point is the motif at the beginning should have
Mhm.
stayed the focus throughout the entire song, not merge with the classic kind of lo-fi sound. Boom. That's my point. I'm not changing my mind.
A
Don't
great
even
point. You
try.
don't have to change
Yeah.
your mind. No one tried. Uh, I love it. Yeah, it's really good. I like what we all said here, and I think I would agree, even though we were not 100% sure when we said it, that this is probably some of your best work out, or most interesting is I think what we said. So that's always good because
Yeah.
we get bored listening to the same stuff. So if you can intrigue us with some interesting music, that's awesome. But yeah, I would just I don't know. You can always you're gonna get some feedback from some people, and you can't just always go run and change a track. That's why it's good to get feedback from a wide variety of people. And someone might eventually say something that makes sense to you. You don't just want to change just because everyone's saying change it. Make sure you understand why you're changing something or whatever. Like the intro, you don't need to go add more stuff. Like maybe it makes sense, like Radium's saying, and she liked it. So maybe I was missing the point on the intro or something. But so don't need to go run and change the intro just because I said something about the intro. But I think yeah, so very good. How many do we have left?
We have one submission left.
Cool.
Do you want to move on?
I was gonna say, yeah, we got about 15 minutes left. Let's go ahead and
Yeah.
check out the last track.
All right. So our final submission, final submission for today, is called "Whip," a work in progress, by Fox of Galaxy. Have fun. All right, so that was a work in progress by Fox of Galaxy, and I can't even count all the work in progresses we've heard so far. So Fox did leave us a note, which goes as follows. Again, just a drop and an outro, and this might be a bit loud. Don't worry, I turned it down. That wasn't the note, the last part.
That
I
was
turned it down.
late added that part. I'm just.
Yeah. Um,
You read it so seamlessly. Fox is
yeah.
like, it's probably pretty loud, but don't worry, I turned it down for you, Belay.
Yeah, no, I turned it down. I think we're listening to
I've already told myself if I'm gonna
14%
send
of
something
the
to Belay,
original volume,
yeah,
which is
I'm
like
gonna,
minus,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, so what did you guys
Yeah.
think? What did you think, Guild?
All right. Fox, so super, super simple, but it's just a whip. But I would say this, I think you got this part figured out. What you need to put in the whip formation, a work in progress put into motion is like the other parts of the song to really tie it together and make it a song. I said song in quotations because this is just like a drop and track kind of thing. Not to get too technical, but to kind of create this into more of a story, the drop is, the drop's got some problems, and I'll say that in a second. But the drop is a rhythm drop, really minimal rhythm, um, and it's still lacking a lot. But I would say all the other parts of your song is where you would want to make some kind of thing that's never been heard before, something that's just like a melody and all the other stuff, like an actual, I wouldn't even call it a hook, but just something that gives the song identity, that makes the song different than anything else ever heard. And it can happen in the bridge. It usually happens on the chorus or the hook. It can even be the intro or something, but it just needs some other song, really, like a part of the song. And then you can go into this drop idea. And I know this is just the whip or whatever, but that's what I would like to hear. I want to hear how's this gonna. I don't have the context for this drop. Okay, so now just the drop by itself, I would say the problem is that bass. Even though this had a really nice high texture that I like the sound of, the rest of the stuff was just missing. Like it didn't have. And I'm noticing this each time with your bass sounds and stuff. It's like you'll get one element of the bass, which would ultimately just be one layer, but everything else is not there to really fill up what a rhythm bass track is supposed to be, which is that heavy distorted bass is just covering every frequency, and it's just in a rhythm that's supposed to be, a triplet rhythm or whatever. Uh, but without all that other stuff, it's just like every other rhythm track. And then without it even being mixed properly, then it's a subpar of the rhythm track. But I would say what I did like in this track is you have this nice high texture on the bass. I don't know the best way to describe it, but the high texture, if you keep that quality, but then put all the mids and lows and everything else properly around it, you have a nice little texture there. But I would add a really nice, elaborate ARP synthesizer, synth, like playing ARPs through the thing, and some kind of vocal thing, but not the vocoder thing, just some other vocal thing, or whatever. Bring back the vocoder thing, but then or speak and spell. That's what it is. Bring back the speak and spell, but maybe add a new twist to it or something. I don't know, but you need some more stuff here to make it unique. But I still see the improvement. I still see you slowly getting better, but I think you got to pick up some new techniques, learn some new tricks, really be able to push your DAW to the limits. But okay, what do you think, Blake?
Right. Yeah, it's honestly a bit difficult to come up with feedback for Fox of Galaxy for me sometimes. And with this one again, I just gotta ask because listening back to the last, I think 4 submissions, they sound so similar that I'm wondering if they're the same track just with a different filter on top, or maybe some things moved around. But the sounds that you use, they sound so similar. So are they like from a pack or something? Do you actually like make them with synthesizers or plugins or whatever? Yeah, it sounds super similar every single time, and I don't really know what we're listening to here. Is this like a work in progress that's ongoing and it's the same thing? I don't really know. Um, I think this seemed less harsh to me than sometimes, but I think that's because of this
Yeah, I agree.
strong filter that you have on it. I don't know. I guess I'm really just yeah. I think how Gil put it was perfect. I think we're really missing the context of any sort um, with a lot of these. Um, yeah, I mean we're all getting tired of it of me saying this, but when are you downloading a Loves meter and actually look at your levels? um, yeah.
If people using Ozone, at least use that auto set thing at the very end. I know you're not supposed to just auto master your thing, but if you're at least using Ozone, you want to at least
Right.
know what it is. You can go set your threshold at -14 loves at that thing, and let that little maximizer, it'll auto move itself up and down until it finds a spot. And if it just doesn't sound loud to you, then you need to go to fix it in the mix. But you don't want to go past that. Let that at least tell you that
Right.
you're going past. You don't even have to download the separate LUFS meter if you got. I know not everyone has Ozone, so I guess that. But a lot of people have Ozone, and
I
if you
mean,
are using Ozone,
even if
it has
you,
that auto setter.
yeah, I mean, even if you don't want to like get into like loves metering and stuff, just at least make sure that you're not, hitting the true peak ceiling. That you don't like, if you set a ceiling, set it at the true peak and set it with a true peak, not uh, your digital meter inside the DAW, which usually does not display true peak. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, get some good
We're all
analysis.
getting tired of me
Cool.
saying this,
No,
but
it's a good last. It's a good way to kind of just
yeah,
make that a little bit more clear with people because everyone's maybe still struggling to figure it
yeah,
out. In the EDM world, people all of a sudden
uh,
they get their track where they think it is, and they go listen to it, and the problem is it doesn't sound loud to them anymore, and that's because they're not mixing or choosing the right sounds, and there's other
yeah,
problems.
yeah. But I do want to give it over to Radium now, for her feedback, and I think then we go into the last sort of open discussion. Yeah. So Radium,
Uh,
I just have a question. What do you want feedback for?
that's a good question.
Because I can
no,
give you
no
feedback,
shade,
but
no shade from my
I
end,
need
Fox,
to
but I get you.
know. I need to know because you said it yourself. A drop and outro. Okay, what do I give feedback for? It's a drop and an outro. Do you want like an overall opinion of your outro and your drop? If so, I can give you my main comment, which is everything you make to me sounds the same. And I'm saying this to someone that actually like low-key
Yeah.
enjoys that type of not music, but I low-key enjoy that because it's so weird.
Mhm.
But like it all sounds the same to me. So I feel like I'd be repeating myself.
Yeah,
So I
makes
really don't know
sense.
what kind of feedback you're
What
in
would you
for.
add? What would you the first thing you would add if you had to take this in some direction, Radium? Like I said, I would add an ARP synth, a really loud, plucky ARP synth, but you got to make sure it matches that rhythm of that bass. But who knows? Maybe add a vocal, or maybe add a I don't know. It's hard to say. It's really hard to say. But you want to add something to make it different for sure. Um,
You're asking me what would I add?
I'm not. I'm
Why
just
would I
throwing that
even
question
make
out there.
this?
Yeah. I
Would I even make this? That's
know.
question number one.
I
What
just
would I add?
who knows? Who knows?
Wouldn't use it.
um,
Shade. But what would I add? Okay, let's say I'm using this and I'm keeping it like that. First of all, I would make a whole song, not just a drop in an outro. This is like kind of a melody, something melodic. So it's not just like a synthy, rough, harsh sound, but like maybe like music. But again, I don't think it's a type of music that has that. So it's not pertinent. Uh, I really don't know. All I can say
yeah.
is all of your stuff sounds the same to me. Is it
Mhm.
normal for this genre, or is it maybe time to be creative?
Yeah, think outside the box.
I honestly, I totally feel that. It sounds the same to me, as well. I mean, I mean, sort of what I said. I thought it's all from the same pack or something. I don't know, or just a different version of something previous. Um, but I think within that genre, which I don't really know what it belongs to, but I've heard similar things before, and they are different. So I think definitely it's not
Mhm.
a genre thing. I don't think no.
No, it's all the other parts that go around that is what's going to make it
Yeah.
different. And I always say this, but Virtual Riot is my favorite rhythm producer. And if you listen to any Virtual Riot song, there's just so much in every song there, and it's just it's intimidating, because I mean it's just intimidating how good Virtual Riot is. But he makes this style, and what you have is like what would be one little short section underneath a bunch of other stuff in a Virtual Riot track, maybe missing the mixing stuff. So it's like you've got a lot of a bar set pretty high, but if you don't want to make exactly that kind of stuff, I would say experiment with something different and try to carry us into the drop with something new and fresh, and then we can hear the drop, and then you can go back out. It's just like this little drop, we've heard it before. All right. I think we are at the
All
5
right.
minutes. Did y'all have anything else to say about the Fox's track?
I think this is a good time to probably end the stream. I think.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, thanks for being in the chat with us today. And there was a lot of great feedback given and received, I
Oh
think.
yeah,
So
we had really good feedback on the chat today.
yeah, so
Really
thanks for
liking the
that.
activity today.
Yeah, that really makes these streams worth it for everybody that came and submitted and stuck around and all that stuff, and even us doing this stream. All right. Thanks, Blake, for streaming, and Radium for being here and giving feedback. I don't want to give too many more announcements because I just want to wrap this up right at the 2 hours point. But just a reminder, I'll do my MPA production stream tomorrow on the Twitch channel at the same time. It's the 8 p.m. UTC. Those are getting really fun. And so if you want to get involved with the streams, come to the streams, bring samples and stuff if you want, and we'll work on a collab or something. So that's on the MPA Twitch channel tomorrow at 8 p.m. UTC. That's 4 p.m. Eastern time. All right, and I'll just leave it at that. Thanks everybody for being here. I will see everyone back in the chats. Bye for now.
Right. Bye.